welcome to the Cardboard Herald podcast. My name is Eric, joined this week by my tech-savvy co-host, Jack.
That's me. On every single, espionage team, I'm always assigned the tech hacker role.
Are you frequently on espionage teams? I feel like I shouldn't ask that. I feel like that defeats the purpose of you being on the espionage team if you're frequently known for being on the espionage team.
You know, I was watching Project Lazarus earlier, which is the latest anime that is by the creator of Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo. And the character announces to a member of the public, I'm a secret agent, and the person actually believes them, but then says, well, if you're a secret agent, aren't we supposed to keep that secret? And he says, no, we're all about transparency. And I thought it was so funny, the idea of you're still referring to yourself as a secret agent, but you're like, we're into transparency these days. Yeah. So I guess the same is true here. I'm all about that transparency when I'm on my secret espionage groups. I'm a bit of a black hat. Is that what they call them? Is that the term? One of the hackers, or no? That's like an evil hacker, I think.
You're a red team. You're a red team.
Yeah, I know nothing about computers, honestly.
I know as much as I learned from like doing the CompTIA A+, first, the number one LinkedIn learning section.
Perfect.
Which I know red team, they hack to teach you what is wrong, and then there's blue team who works to do your defenses. They didn't get too deep into it. I've not learned how to hack yet.
Okay. Well, I know about as much on computers as I need to perform any of the things that I'm trying to do. And sometimes that has been fairly technically savvy. Like I have no formal training whatsoever in video editing, in audio engineering. Those were all things where I'd been interested in the end product of music, of creating videos, and just figuring it out. And I don't think I have like a natural aptitude to computers, but I have a natural aptitude to, I guess, mechanics, logic. And so I can generally kind of figure things out. But no, I'm not getting called on those espionage crews.
Well, welcome in, Jack, who might be a little less tech savvy than first pronounced at the start of the podcast. And also to our listeners, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
What have you played this week, Jack?
Oh, man. I have played a banger. I've played some other games, too. So let's start with some of the, maybe not chuff, but I played Sniper Elite. That was pretty good. It's a hidden movement game. David Thompson co-designed it, which David Thompson does some really amazing stuff. I also played a game that he co-designed with his most notable partner, Trevor Benjamin, Moitura. And then Trevor Benjamin and Brett J. Gilbert did Azure, and both of those are kind of head-to-head duelers that Bitewing is coming out with. Following up in the line of Iliad and Icor, which those are both cool. Different. And I recommend that anyone interested check out the video that I did on those, because they both came out different than I...
We did.
That's true. Very true.
Get in focus, camera.
Yeah, you got to get in focus. But the most notable thing that I got to play this week was Regicide Legacy. And I have kind of an obsession with minimalistic things that do a job extremely well. And Regicide to me was kind of a revelation. It represented using every part of the deck for the most interesting ways that you can use it. And it deserves the accolades that it got. It is legitimately one of my favorite cooperative games, not just for being a game that uses a standard deck of playing cards, but it's just one of my favorite cooperative games, period. And then Regicide Legacy has come out, which I'm kind of going into with some degree of optimism, but this trepidation that it's going to muck with the formula too much, right? You know, like you want that purity, and then you're bringing the baggage of the rest of the game world. And at least in the couple of games that we played, which only played us through one successful go around of the first mission, it was great. I am so excited about what's coming in that box. The box itself is beautifully crafted, and it kind of has the same minimalistic ethos I think that the original game has, just expanded to this much larger scope. And I'm feeling really good about it. I'm excited to play. My wife and son are in on it, and it's fortunate that Syrian, my son, was way into Regicide as we traveled in Germany. So we played a ton of it there, and he's amped. He's ready to play it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, and I feel like that's a perfect game for like his age. I mean, Regicide is, I think, like it hails back to like a lot of old classic card games, which I feel like anybody can learn. I would also be worried a little bit. Like I was excited when it was announced, but there was, I agree, a little bit of trepidation of, oh, this is like one of the regions Regicide is so great. It is so clean. There's no faff. Like there's no extra material there that you're like, oh, well, that part of the game I kind of don't like, but that's okay because there's a lot of stuff I do like. Like all of it works because it's a tight system that you're playing in.
And I think that even with this expanded scope, they're using every part of the buffalo, so to speak.
Great.
I've already had to dive into, so each scenario has its own box, and you have to complete the scenario before you can go on to the next one. There's something that happens the first time that you lose a scenario, and the rule book, like this isn't a spoiler or anything, the rule book specifically says, as part of the conclusion of a game, the first time that you lose a scenario, open this box. And the rulebook has a bunch of sections where you can put stickers that will update the rules. And I believe everything can be reset upon completion except for the rulebook. That's where I think the permanent changes are going to be with the stickers that get added. But I don't know that there's permanent changes in the way of like tearing up cards or permanent ramifications to specific cards, but there are ways that the game plays with replacing things, changing things. And the results of losing the first mission, what that introduced, and then succeeding on the first mission and seeing the outcome of that, both in terms of the light story that they're trying to go with and how that plays with the things that you're working with in your deck, gives me a lot more confidence that this is going to be a really smart continuation of the ideas that are just hinted at in the original Regicide. Fortunately, the original game is free to anyone who has a deck of cards, so that's always going to be there.
Yeah.
But if the next several scenarios are as good as my experience has been in the first couple of plays so far, I think this has a strong contender essence of being one of the favorite games of the year for me.
Brad, awesome. Yeah, I mean, I love to hear that. I also, I mean, Regicide as a game is just very much loved on this channel. So I think
Yep.
happy that the publisher gets another way to make money, considering Regicide is, as a whole, like, anybody who has a deck of cards can play it. So I hope that they get something out of it, because it is a great game.
The Badgers from Mars team, all about it, and art aesthetic, wow,
Oh
perfect.
yeah, totally
What you
agree.
been playing?
Let's see. I have gotten more. So I'll start with a high. I got to play more tag team. It's it's so good.
I
I've
gotta
talked
play it,
about it
man.
so many times. Uh, it's so good.
I don't like that name. I'm going to tell
Tag
you
team.
right up. Every time that you say tag team, I imagine like a game of tag being played on a playground, which is cool and fun,
Hmm.
but then I just think of some game that I'm
Yeah.
going to be dismissive of just based off of the scope being playing tag on a jungle
Hmm.
gym. It is not immediately coming to mind, cool battles
Superhero.
of different
Yeah.
legendary
I thought it
fighters,
would
superhero
be.
guys.
I I really thought that it would be like wrestling themed. Like wrestling themed with like these things where it's like all of these. I happen to have the rule book here with like all of these fighters were like actually just like WWE style wrestlers, which is not the case. They're superheroes. Regardless, very fun. That one's definitely a high. I think
Who
I
who are
just
these
go ahead.
who are these scorpion mask people from Quebec that are putting out Sky Team and Tag Team? Which now I'm realizing there's the continuation
Team.
of the name there. Is this a part of that line?
Um, I think it's name only. It's in name only. It has nothing to do with
Okay.
Sky Team. It
Well,
is not even a
yeah, yeah,
little
yeah.
similar.
But is the box dimension the same? Is it something where it looks like maybe they're coming up with various team games and
Yeah.
some of them are co-op, some of them are
This
not,
box is
but
the same.
yeah, they're making a line of games. This
Yeah.
is the next entry in the team
Yeah.
verse.
And is really good. I wrote out the script for the review for that today, and it is glowing. And I will probably be recording it tomorrow because I think I'm getting an upgraded camera for my phone tomorrow.
Excellent.
Uh,
Well, bring that one to PAX because I want to play it.
good.
I need to
Oh,
play that game.
absolutely. Oh, it's coming. I'm hoping that there's expansions hinted at. I'm fairly positive there's an expansion on the way next year.
Okay, okay. Let's do it this way. I convinced everyone I could at PAX last year to pick up a copy of Sky Team,
Yeah.
and everyone ended up with a copy of Sky Team. So if Tag Team is as much of a banger as you say it is, then that will be a game that, on good faith, I can just, you know what? I'm just going to buy it at PAX Unplugged, so that way we can play it together.
Yeah,
Done.
absolutely. Well, I'm still bringing mine. That's separate.
Okay.
I'm still gonna bring mine. Well, because
Excellent.
I in the review do point out it's great for me. I love this game. I think there are a lot of reasons why people might not like it. I
Okay.
don't think that's necessarily going to be for everybody. And I put that in the review. I'm putting it out there that the reason I'm speaking so highly of it is because the things work for me, and the things that I think might push people away don't push me away. There's gonna be a full review on it, so you'll get like the full thoughts there in a way that's gonna be a little bit more succinct. But I got that played. I got a playtest done of a game that I'm working on, a Honeymoon Whist Lane Battler. Honeymoon Whist
I
is
don't even know
yeah.
what you are describing now. I mean, Lane Battler, I kind of have
those
some
ones.
concept of that, but what's going on here?
Honeymoon Whist is a 2-player trick-taking card game. Like it's just it's a classic game. It definitely is a not like widely played like in the style of spades or hearts, but it's a 2-player trick-taking normal deck of cards, shuffle it. Each player, it's 2 players only. Each player gets 13 cards. The first go, You take a card from the top of the deck, from the top of just the leftover cards, and flip it over. And whatever
Okay.
suit that is establishes what the trump suit is for this current hand that you were or this trick that you're just about to play. And then uh, you play to either win that card into your hand for next round, or if you lose this trick, you get whatever the random card is next, like whatever that other
Okay.
card is. So basically, you play out the first 13 cards. Each player ends up with a hand of 13 that they've assembled either from winning cards or winning tricks and gaining the card shown, or losing tricks and gaining a random card from the deck. And then you play out a second round using the hand you just built. And now there's no trump cards, or there's no trump suits. You just, if you win the suit, you win, or if you win the trick, you win the trick, and you only count the points you win in the second go round. I am working on a game where it is a lane battler, so you do that where you have the card that flips over. That is the trump suit for this current trick. When you win that trick, that card goes into whatever lane it's supposed to do and has a little effect. And then if you've lost the trick, you just draw a card from the deck and add it to your hand. So players slowly, or their hand shrinks down. And then once one player runs out, the other player just puts all the cards they have in their hand into play. Without getting any
and so you're just populating the lanes based off of the trick. So that's informing how you want to approach whether you're winning or losing a trick.
Yeah.
Huh?
Because also, like, if you have, like, if the card that comes up is like a 2 or a 3, or it's like really low, you're like, I don't want to win this because that is now one fewer card that I will have in my hand. Like,
I mean,
and it's not worth very much.
This is old hat at this point in trick-taking games, but I usually find that the ones that I gravitate to the most are the ones that give you some interesting, I guess, levers to pull with why you may or may not want to win a certain trick or a type, a suit, a certain number of tricks. Something that gives you motivation external to just, I want more points and I want to win as many tricks as I can. So it's that sounds like it'd be right up my alley.
There were some bumps. I mean, it's playtesting a game. That was also the first playtest I had with another player. Trick taking games, very difficult to playtest on your own. You can do it, but it just is. It requires a mental strength that is much easier to just have another player who does it. So I got that played, which was fun. And then I got a couple other, but I do see this box in frame on your screen, and I just was wondering, what's in the box?
Okay, what's in the box? Well, we thought we might have like a cardboard corner here. Break out the razor blades, but I just happened to come into the door in preparation for recording this podcast, and boom, there were a couple boxes sitting here for me. So I think I know what some of these are, but we're like, hey, why not open these on camera? So first thing I have here, I have something from Keymaster Games. Very dense box. So either
hefty.
very nicely packed or some substantial contents in
couldn't
here.
be me. Nicely packed.
I think we can anticipate, because Keymaster doesn't have like a bajillion of releases, what this could be.
Especially in a box that small.
Especially in a box this small.
Dagnabbit.
What's up? You got the promos? Are these the promos?
Yeah, those are the promos I got.
The promos. Yeah.
So now I have a spare set of promos floating around.
Well, maybe we'll have to do a giveaway on some promos. We have here character promos. Looks interesting. Harvest score markers. Keeping score can be a hard row to hoe. But these new scoring markers will keep you plowing ahead. And a fix-it pack. Huh. I haven't really been following the Kickstarter that much. These are review copies of this stuff, but I wasn't aware of fixes that needed to happen. Maybe those are like balance changes
or
for
maybe
the original Harvest.
They're replacements.
And then this, this here is Fall Harvest, the kind of mini expansion for Harvest that adds kind of like a new layer of preparation. I was kind of hoping with Harvest that there would be like extra vegetation integrated into the game, and I don't think that's what this does, but it does look cool in that there's like a cooking or a preparation element with there's like pies and flowers.
Yeah, there's a pie set scoring thing. That could have been a fun thing where, you know, you have to grow the crops that become the pies.
Yeah, well, I was thinking like some extra berry bushes would be kind of cool. Like different types of berries. Okay, so Fix-It Pack. These are interesting. These aren't stickers or anything. This is Bury the Bison, which isn't part of the base game. And then I have a smithy and a library here, which I do think those are in the original, but I'll have to take a look. What is actually the difference here? The library gives you a harvest at the end of the game, which I know there is something that has that effect in the last one, but I don't know. Okay, we'll so there's that, and then this other box. This is a little bit more nebulous. I think I know what this is, but it's from Czech Games. So I have some thoughts. I have some suspicions. I have been in contact with Czech Games, but bigger box nonetheless. Trying not to show all the details of like, my address and everything.
Please don't dox yourself. I'll add like a little blurring information if I can pause a frame and read your address. I'll blur it out for you.
See, you're the hacker. All right. Galaxy Trucker, do what? Is an expansion. And then, lo and behold, Galaxy Trucker itself. So again, review copies. This is actually the new Galaxy Trucker. I've played Galaxy Trucker before. But I was kind of hoping to do like a retrospective on Galaxy Trucker anyway. And so it was good timing with them looking for some coverage of their new expansion, which I'll fold into that. Have you ever seen Space Trucker Bruce? The movie, fully feature-length film made here in Juneau, Alaska?
No, I have not. I've not heard of this.
You could buy a DVD. You could buy a digital copy of Space Trucker Bruce, and Galaxy Trucker, the game, makes a cameo appearance in Space Trucker Bruce, a sci-fi film, feature-length, fully filmed here in Juneau, Alaska, with some notable people that you might recognize as someone who has lived here. I went to the world premiere at the Nickelodeon Gold Town with a presentation by the director of the film. Very fun experience. Highly recommend people check out Space Trucker Bruce if you like a little bit of absurdist comedy, low budget film business. And Galaxy Trucker. I'm excited to see if there's any differences in this one, but it's a good time. Galaxy Trucker is a classic.
It is. I've played it once and enjoyed it quite thoroughly.
Let's
see. The last thing that I played this week that I just finished. I put together an unboxing short that'll go up at some point or another for it. Was Dice Realms. I actually was just playing that before this podcast recording, and so I'm coming in with very hot emotions from playing it. Really strong opinions. For a game that costs $100 is a pretty big letdown. Is my big takeaway.
That is too bad.
Yeah.
Is it just like it's all filler, no killer? You know, like, is it the
Mm-hmm.
cost differential? You know,
Yeah,
like,
so I'll put out that I played the solo mode, which is not necessarily the way that you want to experience this game. I think that it probably is going to play a lot better with more players. But I was playing it solo to kind of learn how the game feels and flows so that I can put together a table and teach them how the game plays.
yeah.
Um, but it was very much a so the game you start with dice that have like all the same starter faces. As you build or as you play through the game, you'll upgrade those die faces to be better die faces. Uh, the game felt like it felt very wide. Like there were a lot of things you could do.
Without being deep.
It was very shallow is kind of what I felt like. Because you
Yeah.
you don't have like you can start making plans where you're like, okay, well I see that this is a thing that's happening. Or like I can see that there's a die face that I can put in that lets me just upgrade my green face dice or my green die faces all the way up to the top one without having to spend any upgrades. So I should get a green die face. But then you just never you put it on a die and then you hope you get it. There's no guarantee you do. And the game just kind of happens and then it's done. And it was like, oh, I feel like I put in a lot of strategy and like set myself up to do some cool things, and just because they're die faces, I never rolled them, or I rolled them in ways that were not very helpful. Uh,
Yeah.
I think I maybe
It-
need to go at it with. First of all, I should maybe go at it multiplayer. That feels like that's probably going to be the best way to play this game. But even with
yeah.
multiplayer, it feels like it's the setup and teardown took longer than the game itself.
How
Just
much do
not
you
good.
think that it's, like, all in service of the gimmick? Like, if the game is relying entirely on the gimmick,
Mm-hmm.
like that comes up from time to time. I mean, Dice Forge was a game where that ultimately was my feeling, was like, there's an okay game here with a really interesting but unfulfilled promise out of the gimmick. That's how I felt about early Mystic Vale.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first reviews that I ever did for the Cardboard Herald was like, I like Mystic Vale in principle, but it feels like overall it's kind of a shallow experience. I think expansions ultimately mitigated some of that,
Mm-hmm.
and I still have the like legendary edition of Mystic Vale on my shelf, and
Yeah.
I enjoy that game now. But it did have this smacking of like, this was a good concept for a gimmick, a toy that a game was then built around, and that game itself was like, well, we just need something serviceable to really wow someone with the, kind of gimmicky nature of sleeving cards. Um, in this case, does it feel like the game is using that as a crutch? Like, it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
the audience is going to be so excited by the idea of building their dice that they don't need to feel like they're actually making other meaningful decisions as you're playing the game.
Maybe. I mean, I think that the core concept is interesting. Like, again, in principle, I'm a fan of the idea of, oh, you're building these dice that are yours that are going to help you kind of adapt to situations as you play the game. Um,
Right.
but it still feels like they left a lot on the table, unfortunately. They
Yeah.
like left a lot of, there felt like there were more levers they could give the player to pull. And like obviously, it's a you they didn't want it to be like you can always roll the die face that you would like, because then it's like, why,
Right.
what's the point of the randomness of the die? Like that's part of the core game. But it did just feel like the first like 3 or 4 turns was just, oh, I rolled an upgrade. I'm gonna do an upgrade, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully I get what I want. And then you don't get what you want, and then you roll your die again, and then you're like, oh, I didn't get what I wanted with my one free reroll I get each turn. I guess I'm gonna upgrade again, and then it's just
Well,
like, oh, I upgraded every single turn functionally, which I think that is part of what you're supposed to do. You are supposed to upgrade frequently. That is like part of the core gimmick, because you're popping out the die faces, which also
right.
don't pop out very easily. There were a number of times where I was like, I don't want to. You get like this little tool, and I feel like I'm chipping the tool.
Yeah. Well, any number of our favorite games and gamers' favorite games involve dice. And it's interesting decisions that you build around the responses to those dice. And I think the hope is that you're making these decisions, you're accounting for the probabilities, but you're still empowered to do kind of interesting things regardless of what those rolls yield. And that can be really frustrating when the game just doesn't have the I guess the substance to really act upon that. I mean, every game you want to be full of interesting moments, and that's a super subjective thing. That's why some games resonate with some people and it doesn't. But if the only interesting moment that you have is the excitement of putting something on your dice and you're not fulfilling enough exciting moments of what you're doing once that is put on your dice and once you're rolling those dice, then it doesn't matter if the game's $100 or $1. It's just a flat experience, and you could find any number of other better games to play with or without dice.
And the thing that I feel like is maybe most it's hard to judge from doing the solo mode, but my gut feeling after playing through the solo mode is the way that players interact is not very engaging or
Right.
or fun or thoughtful. It's only negative, because it's like the things are, oh, you have to set aside a dice. You have to set aside a die and you can't use it this turn. Like, you don't get any of its benefits. Or you have to destroy one of your die faces. Like, just replace it with a destroyed thing, and it's gone. Or you lose grain. But it's not like thoughtful. It's just, oh, I rolled this attack. Now everybody at the table has to resolve this attack. Like, everybody at the table needs to lose 2 grain because I rolled the die face that makes everybody lose 2 grain.
Well, that's fitting and maybe a good transition point for our topic
I thought
today.
it would be.
If you don't mind me, there you go. You just gave me a nice underhand pitch, and
it's called a layup.
We're going to talk about
it's called a layup, Jack.
A layup. I don't know anything about sports. I know less about sports than I do technology.
Yeah, I tossed you that layup. Go right ahead.
I was thinking baseball. Is it a layup in baseball as well?
Probably not baseball. It's a layup in basketball. But I thought you were trying to say an underhand pitch.
No, an underhanded pitch in baseball, like a nice, when I'm pitching to my son so that way he can hit the ball with the bat. I'm not going to give him as fast of a pitch as possible.
You should. He needs to learn.
Yeah. And when I think of layups, I think of an easy basket that's happening. And so I've never really understood the metaphor because, a layup to me is not a pass, whereas you were giving me a pass. You were sending something for me to then hit. Whereas a layup, that's where you go up and then you go against the backboard. Whatever, Eric. Conflict. This conflict that we're having right now is exactly what we want to talk about in games.
Yes.
Eric, are you a conflict oriented person?
No, I'm conflict adverse at all opportunities.
Right, except in safe scenarios, right?
Board games. I actually am surprisingly pretty conflict.
Yeah,
oriented.
And I think you and I share some similarities in that. I think I can be a little bit more of a maybe conflict oriented person, but I'm, for the most part, I think someone who seeks resolution through conflict. At work, I don't have any issues with dealing with like some really tough topics. I don't mind engaging with tough topics with friends or with people who I heavily disagree with, and I enjoy and often seek that debate mainly because I know that that's how I'm going to get resolution. But it does make me uncomfortable a lot of the time. And I think that board games facilitate a level of safe conflict and
Mm-hmm.
like being aggressive in certain ways. When we were talking about possible topics, when we talked about conflict, I was thinking about what are the different forms and like how are these leveraged into games, and just some of the favorite games that I have, some of the favorite games that you have, and also I we both at this point talk to a lot of game designers. You design games. I figured we had some thoughts on it. So like
Mm-hmm.
in broad strokes, like when I say what are the ways that a game can implement conflict or leverage conflict to make a better game, what are some of your thoughts?
So for me, I mean, I think that the thoughts go to like war games or something like that, where there's
Right.
I'm rolling an attack against you, Jack, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping to inflict a specific negative outcome to you, such as like removing your pieces from the board, or like in arcs, just because it's over my shoulder, like stealing resources from you.
Sure.
Like a very direct. This is an attack against you specifically. Uh, there's also like I'm doing an attack to everybody at the table, such as in Dice Realms, which I just played, where it is everybody at the table loses 2 grain, except for me. I don't, because I'm the one doing the attack. Where
Right.
it's still like directly affecting you, but it's not directed at you. It
Okay.
is directed to everybody at the table. And then there's the whole cavalry of I'm doing something on the board which doesn't like directly take resources away from you or give resources to, well, it might give resources to an opponent, but it doesn't like take something away from you, but it puts you in a worse spot to achieve your goals.
Yeah.
Uh, which is like a roundabout way of a conflict with you.
Yeah, I think conflict ultimately comes down to some sort of negative impact
Mm-hmm.
for someone else at the table. And it's not necessarily an attack or taking away. Even pressure, I think, is a really interesting form of conflict. Like, if there's like Arc Nova would be a great example of this, or Terraforming Mars has this. A lot of people think about some of these Euro type of games as being low conflict, but if you make the crux of a lot of points or momentum in a game in the way that Arc Nova wraps the point system
Mm-hmm.
into a lot of different bonuses that then reap mechanical benefits, having the things that you compete over and publicly compete over can be a great sense of conflict. The moment that I see that something that I've minorly invested in that you begin to invest in as well suddenly changes up the entire decision matrix. All of
Mm-hmm.
my choices are now going to have to factor in, am I going to compete with you or am I just going to let that one go? That can be done poorly and that can be done great, just like any other implementation of game design. But the point is that I think competition inherently an interesting way to drive conflict in a
Yeah.
game, except when it's just a competition for whoever has the most points at the end,
Yeah.
in a completely multiplayer solitaire type of game.
Yeah, well, I think that there's a conflict is a really valuable tool that a game designer can use because I think, it inherently rises the tension in a game where it's like you're
Yeah.
building a tension between you and me. If I'm attacking you, I'm giving you more things you have to consider when you are choosing how to use your resources, or I'm giving you fewer choices because you have fewer resources to use towards your decisions. And it both, I think, heightens the tension inherently. It also gives a way for people to kind of balance the game themselves a bit. You don't want it to necessarily be so full send that the conflict can be just like Kingmaker, where it's just somebody chooses who wins because that's the person who has gotten beaten up on the least. But
Right.
conflict is a really valuable tool for game designers to throw into their designs. And I think any game, unless it is a like multiplayer solitaire, has to consider what conflict looks like in their game. So like Cascadia has a lot of low player interaction. There's not a lot of player interaction in that game at all. The only things that you actually affect between one person from another is what tokens and cards you have on the board. And
As far as I'm concerned, there's little interaction, period.
well,
Brain interaction with the game.
that's
Cascadia is a bad game.
that's an opinion, Jack.
I'm
Disagree.
going down that hill.
I know you
That
are.
very,
You're
very
okay.
tall peak.
You're allowed. You're allowed to.
Yeah, I guess so. But I get what you're saying. But like I don't know. Like when you think about Cascadia, do you see it as a no conflict game? Do you see that as a low conflict game? Just different type of conflict?
I think that for me, that is the lowest amount of player interaction or like lowest amount of conflict there can be in a game because it's not direct. You're frequently not going to take a piece off the board. Like you're not going to take an animal token or a card. Sorry, tile. Tile? Yeah, that's what they are.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
tiles.
tiles. I keep calling them cards. They're tiles. But you're not going to take a animal token or a tile out of spite. Usually, um, probably.
Yeah,
So
you're not doing a lot of hate drafting in that game
yeah,
unless it becomes like an incredibly important thing.
yeah.
Like there are going to be some people who will calculate: is it better for me to get, 2
These
points with what I do as opposed to this is
stopping
the end
him
of the
from
game
getting
and
him
I'm
that bear that's going to give him 5 points. So
yeah,
it's
exactly.
possible, but for the most part, that is a functionally in my mind that's a no conflict game.
Yeah.
I am not playing against other players in a way that means that I need to inflict negative things to them. Um, so
So
that for me is like that's the bottom line. That is the bottom
okay.
in tiers of what does conflict look like in board games.
Why do you think that there's a substantial portion of our hobby that cringes at the idea of a high conflict game? Not necessarily like examining the psychology of, like why people avoid conflict in
Mm-hmm.
general, but like why what's creating this negative disposition to what should essentially be a safe environment for people to have fun and explore game mechanics. Like a game is a
Mm-hmm.
game and is a game. I understand that's hyperbolic, but I don't know. Like why is there a resistance to high conflict games for a big portion of the audience?
Well, I think that you can always talk about how the conflict of loss aversion, where losing something feels worse than gaining something. So,
Yeah.
if there's conflict in your game where somebody can lose resources, that is going to be a negative emotion that they feel, which can be good. It's good to have those in games every now and then to just balance out your gameplay. But I think realistically, it's just a thing of people who like high conflict games are typically going to be looking for heavier games that gives them more levers to deal with, and heavier games are just not as popular as medium weight games. Like they just sell fewer copies. With that, I think high conflict games just provide a much different experience that sometimes is only good with certain people. Like
Yeah.
I think we had a really good group for all the times that we played Arcs, which Arcs I think is a high interaction medium conflict game. It depends on who you're playing as. Sometimes those leaders are just like, it doesn't, like my goal right now does not really concern you. Like that time that I had the people who were trying to leave through a wormhole at the end of the game. Kind of didn't matter what you were doing. I was kind of ignoring you at the end.
Right.
But it's like a thing of, you can have these games where it's you can have these games of Arcs where it's very high conflict, where you're constantly battling each other and moving your spaceships and maneuvering them to win the battles. Or you can just be a person who is trying to collect all of the resources that you can win the trophies every round.
Yeah.
So there's more variance, but it also is just like, you want a group of players who are going to be okay with this conflict and approach it in a way that is, you acknowledge that you're in a safe space, and you know that you're not like
Right.
actively hurting this person.
I think ultimately, like anything, it's, like meeting the game on its terms and finding the right audience for a game. Generally, people know whether they tend to like or dislike conflict and how much of it or the types that they like. So, like making sure people know what type of game they're getting into is going to likely result in better outcomes. And I hope that more people, even if you feel like you're conflict adverse, if you go into a game with the mindset that it is a safe space, that people are, meeting the game in the way that it's designed and not like just picking on you if they take something of yours, that you maybe might feel more free to not take that personally, or to not feel so defeated, and to just enjoy that game. But I think, like anything, like I said earlier, it can be implemented well or implemented poorly. And I'm most interested in, like, what are some of the things that are done to represent like good instances of conflict, and even if they're varying degrees. So the examples I just gave are Terraforming Mars and Arc Nova, which have very similar systems. You have these milestones, essentially achievements that you can obtain. And in Terraforming Mars, they're fulfilled by certain conditions. You pay for them as part of actions, and they become very contentious things to be able to get a substantial amount of points. Whereas in Arc Nova, there's a very similar system. However, those, one, can change from game to game, which drive different ways that you might approach the game, accessing different systems, which is cool. But like I said, it has more in-game ramifications as to what you're going to be able to do as the game goes on. It impacts your ramp. So it's not just the contention that you have with other players, but It's also how soon you want to dive into that. It might not be a race to having the most primate tags.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a race to who can just get the first set of primate tags. So that way you have just enough of a nudge to be able to start getting your advanced cards.
Yeah.
And then you can worry about the other things at the table. I find that in these type of indirect conflict games where it's a race to certain capabilities, if that race is certain intervals in the game and not simply end game acquisition, it becomes so much more interesting.
Yeah, well, and I think that there's Ark Nova and Terraforming Mars are a good set of examples for this because they are pretty much low conflict.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of interaction between players where you're like, you're putting your meeple on a space where somebody might want to go in Ark Nova,
Right.
and you also you're claiming the 5, which
Mm-hmm.
means nobody else can claim the 5 primate tags.
Right.
But like that's the level of conflict you have there, which is very much it's like soft conflict where it's I'm not directly affecting you. It is I'm changing the game board state in a way that is worse for you, but I'm not taking resources away from you.
Right.
And Terraforming Mars does actually have you can take resources away from another player. There are cards in there. There are cards in there that say I'm taking 4 plants from you. Or
just simply destroying those plants.
Those cards exist. They're not frequent, but it is a thing that you can do.
Right.
But I do think
some people hate them. Some people absolutely will not play with those. One of the most common house rules that I've seen in gaming in general is with Terraforming Mars, we don't play with any of the red outlined boxes. Mm-hmm. I've seen house rules for people where they're like, oh yeah, we love Lords of Waterdeep, but we hate those mandatory quests. So we removed all the mandatory quests from the game because of those direct conflict moments, wanting to do away with them. But I don't know, I think people have too many negative experiences with players using external to the game subjective reasoning to inflict pain on someone else. Everyone has that experience of an older sibling who's like, oh, I'm just going to go after you and risk, even though mom is the person who's actually winning, but I just want to punish you because you're the younger sibling.
If my wife and I are playing board games with other people, it is on site with her. Everything that you can possibly do to ruin somebody's day, me and her back and forth, all on site. I tell you. If I'm getting somebody loses 4 plants, I don't care if somebody else actually has 4 plants and my wife has 1. I am taking that 1 plant from her.
See, you're why conflict gets a bad rap here, because
I'll say there's also some metagaming of typically in these games, my wife and I have played them before, and we're going against people who have not played the game before. And so it's easier for us to be like, okay, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take the 4 plants from you because I know that for you, you'll be okay. You'll be able to turn this around if you lose this 1 plant. But yes, that is a thing that happens. And I think that goes back to, I think the ability for king making typically just on rip is a thing that I don't think should be, as much as possible, should be avoided in game design.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think king making is there can be good instances and there can be bad instances. King making in the most blunt terms of, someone who is not winning no matter what then has to make a decision that is going to impact who is winning. That sucks.
Hmm.
But I think games that rely on nuanced player interaction and a degree of politicking that is external to the game mechanics itself can be really interesting.
Yeah.
And, like players altering strategies based off of game state and who they think might be winning and, adjusting strategy, that to me is just dynamic gameplay.
I agree with that. Well, and I think for me it's that first example you gave that I just find really unfortunate in games because it frequently puts the deciding factor of who wins the game on somebody that is not involved in the decision. Whereas if it's, like Root, I think is a game that occasionally gets accused of king making, where it's like, well, we just don't, nobody attacked him and therefore he won. But it's like that is the game is
Right.
gauging how strong somebody is at this moment and trying to figure out which other faction do you need to be bopping and stopping their progress. And then I
I,
think it also goes back to it can be done poorly where it's like there are a number of times in Root where it's like somebody is the Woodland Alliance and everybody just hits them because they know the Woodland Alliance ramps up really quickly. And it's like,
right.
okay, well now whoever's playing as Woodland Alliance just has a terrible time.
Yeah. Also, if you're having that problem, maybe you need to play the Woodland Alliance better because you maybe are the most flexible
Yeah.
player at the table.
Yeah.
But yeah, listen, anytime that I'm playing Root, especially with new players, I always tell them be cognizant of the Woodland Alliance. They will get most of their points at the end. So don't look at the early game points of the birds and the cats,
Hmm.
or else the Woodland Alliance is going to stomp you.
Yeah.
So I guess when I think about heavy conflict games, so, talking about Root,
Hmm.
Arcs, Game of Thrones, lots of dudes on a map games. I just played Blood Rage recently. I think
Sorry.
when it
What did you
feels
play?
Spicy Vikings.
Oh, Spicy Vikings. Oh, that's
Yeah,
the game.
that's the game. I think that for me and for the majority of the audience who like conflict heavy games but have a distaste for some of them, the best way that I can articulate it is I like games that when you are defeating your fellow players, when you're attacking, when you're destroying, when you're conquering, you're not taking away their capacity to still interact with the game in a meaningful way. And I think that's the negative experience that a lot of people have, is that there can be tactical moments that are so punitive without having the lead up of significant series of defeats that if it's done, it's just like, oh, well, I am so crippled that my game is over now.
Hmm.
I think that's a testament to Root, is that the Woodland Alliance is so flexibly designed that they can essentially restart their infrastructure anywhere.
Hmm.
And even if you have a bad start to your game, there are ways that you can overcome and utilize that table dynamic and the infighting of the rest of the players, who hopefully are now amidst fighting each other because they've seen you've been crippled, that you can come back from that. And games where, like production are really hampered by like some early game conflict,
Hmm.
that can really suck. But games that you still have those capabilities, or even some rubber banding catch up mechanics, that allow you to still be in the fight, to still be a threat, to not feel like a singular defeat can be the end all be all of the entire game.
Hmm.
That's when conflict's actually smartly implemented into these combative games.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that there's, again, and I think that's the thing I said at the start, conflict can be a really great tool. Like, conflict can be a means for players to balance the game as it's being played, or if somebody is running away with it, giving them an opportunity to hinder them and stop them in a way that allows for them to win. And I think that high conflict games can do this really well. Like, I think that that is kind of like the core gameplay of Root, is examining the board and figuring out who do you need to bop. I think that that's the core gameplay of a lot of dudes on a map games, where it's like your goal here is to analyze the board and figure out where, what conflicts should I be initiating right now. It's and you're going to be initiating conflicts. That is part of the game, but it is like a tool that you have as a player to give yourself a chance at winning.
How do you feel about it's a type of heavy conflict, but how do you feel about zero-sum games? Games where there's like a finite resource and any gain for one player is directly inverse to the loss to another player. It doesn't happen as often. You tend to see like a resource generation and everything, but like an instance where I think this is actually really cool in a conflict heavy game is Pax Pamir has it has dudes on a map conflict, right?
Yeah.
But the economy in the game is essentially a zero-sum game. Not fully. There's a couple cards which might influence that, but otherwise the amount of money that's in the game is the amount of money that will be floating around, and getting a chokehold on that money is as violent and as merciless as anything that you could do with your spies or with your units at the table.
Well, and I think that's a great example, because I think you are right. Like, that's functionally a zero-sum game. Like, there's outliers, but functionally. And that is just another lever of conflict. Like, it is still high conflict. It just looks different. Like, you still have all the other avenues of conflict that are available to you in that game, but you just need to start thinking about the money as another route of conflict. That is another resource to be gained and lost, much like the dudes on the map. And I think there are a number of games where it is also good because it incentivizes you to go through conflict in other ways. So, like, just because we've been chatting about it in ARCs, if somebody has a lot of a resource that you need, you can go take that from them. And you choose to do that instead of attacking the ships they have on the map. But in a similar way, it is you are taking a resource away from him. That resource happens to be an actual resource as opposed to the resource being a ship on the map. But it is very much it is still a conflict that you are doing. And I think ARCs, it's much more clear because you are rolling a dice too. You're rolling a die, sometimes several die, to take that resource away.
We normally think of conflict in terms of aggression between players or some sort of denial, some sort of negative effect. Can a cooperative game have conflict?
Yes, but I think it is the conflict typically is, so like, if we're gonna go, let's go back to this is basic storytelling. There is I said let's go back, and then I immediately said, oh wait, let me actually look up the actual, because I know there's like, man versus
in the
man.
Epic of Gilgamesh, we're going to go back to the first fantasy story.
Man versus man, which involves characters directly opposing each other. Man versus nature, which is a struggle between a character and the world itself. To me, that is you're struggling against the world as opposed to each other. The conflict is you versus the world. So like I'm trying to think of a good example here. A little bit like in Molly House at the start, everybody, and we're just doing the Cole Worley extravaganza, even though that one's designed by Joe Kelly, but Cole Worley's involved. That one, it's you versus the police to start. Everybody is on the same team. You're all against each other as well, because that one is more semi-cooperative than true cooperative. But it is everybody against the police. You are just trying to find joy without having any of the Molly houses being raided. Now, you turn traitor, that can happen, and then everybody's against it. But like Spirit Island too, that's everybody's cooperative, but you are fighting the invaders, and that's to me a conflict as much as me taking your resources and arcs.
Right, and I think some games will allow you to prioritize yourself over others. I mean, in theory, Spirit Island, for example, you're trying to cooperatively make the best decision that will yield a victory for the team. But there is a degree of like, God, I could go over and help you, but also I need to work on my ramp. And, like there's the emotional heartstrings, like what is the joy in the game? The joy is actually seeing your spirit grow to rise, and then to see the interaction of the high level spirits. That to me is peak Spirit Island. Even better than a win is seeing that growth and employing it in really interesting ways. And there is a degree of conflict. It's the heart in conflict with itself, as George Martin might say. That there's things that are maybe more instant gratification as opposed to long-term gains and the speculation of what that may yield. But as far as player interactive conflict, I think that only really comes up that much in like semi-cooperative games.
Yeah.
Where there is the opportunity of like the prisoner's dilemma. We can both secure a victory, or we can both betray each other, and that sucks. Or I can guarantee the victory if I know that I'm the only one betraying you.
Yeah.
And because I'm always suspicious that you could also take that outcome of defecting, then I'm now worried that if I work towards a mutual victory, that I'm the chump who's going to get betrayed, because the moment that you can secure a victory, you're just going to betray me. You're going to defect. Which, if you want a great exploration of game theory and the prisoner's dilemma, look no further than reading 8 entries into the Expanse series. I mean, there's 9 books in the series, but 8 to get to really where the meat of the game theory exploration is. But I think cooperative games, there is some conflict, but it's more roundabout. But I don't know. I think this is one of those things where we could have a part 2 on this, and maybe some more in-depth analysis of actual examples of similar levels of conflict, but poor, acceptable, and great implementation of that conflict. And I invite our audience to actually let us know, like, what are key examples of where it works well and where it works poorly for you. And maybe we can revisit this after we have some audience input. And especially with Moitura and Azure on my mind, which I could get into a whole discussion on those. I've reached out to Trevor Benjamin to actually talk about how he approaches conflict in games, and hopefully should have him on the channel here relatively soon.
Yeah, Great. I think that would be great. I obviously he's a really cool designer. So hopefully you get to chat with him. I am putting together a shorts review of Witchcraft right now, so uh I've been playing some of his stuff. Uh and yeah, I mean, just I'm also just looking at my shelf. I think that the games that incorporate conflict the best, for me at least, are games that incorporate them at all levels, where it is the there's a little bit of direct conflict, there's a little bit of indirect conflict, and there's a little bit of just you're changing the board state in a way that might put them in a worse position just via they now have a different resource that they can actually pull from, which is one of the reasons why I think Imperium works really well, even in the solo mode where you are playing against a bot, because there are attack cards that do attack your opponents. It's an attack. That one is maybe a little bit worse because it goes back to the, it is everybody. What was I going to say? Everybody at the table is affected, so it's not like I'm specifically attacking you. Yeah, it's a direct decision that I'm making. But it has that. It has indirect conflict as you are like racing for resources or racing to get cards onto the board. That will hopefully protect you from raids or also just give you better access to resources. And then there's also the just you're changing the board state in a way that might negatively affect them as you take cards that are really good off the board. And I think that a lot of games do this well, where there are a lot of games where you are either in direct conflict, indirect conflict, and soft conflict with one another. But I think games that manage to tie the three of them together in ways that all of them feel really powerful to you as a player work really well. Like Dune Imperium as well. There's direct conflict, indirect conflict as you are like battling over which spaces to go to, and then also just sometimes you take a card they wanted.
I think what we're always looking for is for our choices to be challenged, to have that pressure up against us, so that way we feel the consequences of our actions, that it gives meaning to the choices that we make, and it adds a degree of risk, a degree of social convention into our games when there's a competitive element or some conflict element. And like it is so ingrained in the very fabric of this hobby that we use it as a touchstone, such as this is a low conflict game or this is a high conflict game. It's one of the first things that we use to describe a game for whether or not someone would like them. Yeah. So I think this is a great discussion. And I'm looking forward to hearing what our audience has to say about it.
Absolutely. And the best place to do that is going to be down in the comments below, here or on Spotify, which there might be a video on Spotify now. Spotify is telling me that I should start uploading the video too, because then they can do that or the audio. I think I did it already once. I might do it again. I'll see.
We'll figure that out.
Didn't change viewership at all, so I don't think that it changed it too much. I don't think that matters too terribly much. But if you're on Spotify and want to have the video, I guess let us know. Because the video is made. Like, it would take. The only thing it would take is just a longer upload time. But the video is here on YouTube as well. Or just wherever you have a way of sending us your thoughts, please do that. One way is emailing us at cardboardherald@gmail.com, or I think on cardboardherald.com or .squarespace.com.
Yeah, you can do it on the website.
There's a place to leave
just cardboardherald.com. And then you can also find us on Blue Sky. I've been posting a little bit more on Instagram. And before we wrap, I just want to give a huge shout out to a couple new patrons that we have. Want to thank John Kohler, a new patron that just joined the channel. And then we have a returning patron coming to the channel, which is very exciting for me because this person has supported in different ways over the years, but I want to thank Hawk and Jones for being a very generous patron and supporting us throughout the years, and after a period of time coming back and supporting quite a bit. So thank you both for
welcome to the Cardboard Herald family.
That's right. Yeah. And I think that's going to do it, don't you, Eric?
I think so. I think it's a pretty good spot to wrap this podcast up on. Thank you again to the community for being great and tuning into this podcast. If you have any ideas for future podcasts, comments are also a great place to leave them, or wherever you want to get in touch with us, you can go right ahead and do that. Thank you for tuning in. I have been Eric with the Cardboard Herald, joined by Jack.
Later.